Assalamu alaikum. My name is Tahir and you are watching live HR Consultants Pakistan. आज का जो हमारा सेशन होने जा रहा है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट सेशन है और बहुत से ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स हैं जिनका डेस्टिनेशन बहुत फेवरेट है, जिनमें से एक यूएसए है। तो आज इस पर हमारी डिस्कशन होने जा रही है और वो स्टूडेंट जो स्पेशली यूएसए में अप्लाई करना चाहते हैं स्टडी के लिए और जानना चाहते हैं यूनिवर्सिटीज़ के बारे में, फीस स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में, इससे रिलेटेड कंप्लीट कोई भी आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए, आप लाइव हमसे आज डिस्कस कर सकते हैं या कॉल कर सकते हैं लाइव 0346474704 पर। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं हमारे HR लाहौर DHA ऑफिस से मैनेजर हैं मिस नकाशिया और ये प्रेजेंट करेंगे यूएसए को। एंड ऑल्सो वी हैव विद मिस्टर समीर। वेलकम मिस्टर समीर that you join us today, and welcome Miss Nakashia, Mr. Talal, that you join us today. And now over to you, Miss Nakashia. You can continue.
Thank you so much, Tahir, for introducing us. So guys, we do have a very prestigious person from the universities, from the Cambridge Education Group. We do have Mr. Sameer and Mr. Talal Janani, who will be assisting us in your questions, answers, and specifically, you all know that you also got your results recently for your A levels as well. So this is the main platform where we can discuss about more information and more opportunities for studies at US universities. So, Smir, can you please brief us about what Cambridge Education Group is all about so that all the students who are joining us on the Facebook, they can get to know about our products as well?
Sure. So Cambridge Education Group is a pathway provider which allows students to join universities within the UK, US, and EU. Within my role, I help and work with you guys, with, for example, HR, to support students to study in the US. For the US, we have two very, very big universities. We have Illinois Institute of Technology, which is based in Chicago. It is ranked 117th nationally. And we provide the opportunity for students to study at Illinois Institute of Technology directly for either their undergraduate or postgraduate options. Or if you do not have the academic grades, we do have a pathway option where you can join our international freshman year for undergraduate level, or we have our international graduate year for your postgraduate. With both the international freshman year and international graduate year, it does not mean that you have to study an extra year. For example, for the undergraduate international freshman year, you can complete the program in 4 years, which is take the same amount of times as it would if you were going directly. And also for the international graduate year, you can complete the program within 2 years.
This is very important. If you can enlighten our students more about it, that putting it in a comparison to the other countries, how do we differentiate when a student goes to the US pathway and if a student goes to any other country's foundation program, how do we differentiate it for them? What benefits
do you mean how it's different?
Yeah, it is different. But what benefits student may have to go to US on this particular pathway program?
It depends. Okay, so for example, with the setup that we have with Illinois Institute of Technology, we are able to, first of all, accept students at a lower level, but without getting them to study an extra year. Sometimes if you are going into the UK or EU, you may need to do a foundation because your grades are not high enough to go in for like an international year one. Also, for example, we don't just have Illinois Institute of Technology, we do have On-Campus Boston. On-Campus Boston accepts students as well. It is a university transfer program where we can accept students with O levels to join our international freshman year, which is again, the first year of your undergraduate degree. So it doesn't mean that you have to do a foundation and then go on to do an undergraduate degree. You can start your first year of your undergraduate program without having to do a foundation or without having to do an A level or AS level program. So that's the setup that we do have within the US. Also within the US, we are not needing to, for example, UK via IELTS or IELTS in general. We do have internal English tests which students can take instead of having to take an IELTS or a TOEFL. Our team are able to run, or even with HR, we can run internal English tests to approve the student's English level, and then they can join our program for either IIT, which is in Chicago, or within Boston, which is in Boston.
Just a short question, that if a student is getting an O-levels grade, a very good grade in English, that could be like A or B, still the student needs to prepare for that internal test?
No, so within the US, we can take IGCSE or O-level English. We can take an C or above for the English program, and then that can be accepted as per proof of level of English. But it doesn't stop there. We can also accept high school as long as students have done 12 years of education in Pakistan, for example, and they've got a C or above in their national curriculum. And we can also accept that as a proof of level of English without needing IELTS or TOEFL.
Right. Can you please tell us about the faculties these both institutions are offering?
The fees?
Faculties. Which programs do they have?
Which programs? So for IIT, we have pretty much everything from engineering to business to architecture to computer science. And that is available for undergraduate students as well as postgraduate students. With Boston, like I mentioned before, it's a little bit different because it's a university transfer program. So Boston, what we do there is we develop our students to improve their academic grades, like we are taking students from O levels onto the university transfer program. And then students can do, let's just say they come to us for engineering and they say, I want to do mechanical engineering. We would develop the program for that first year for them to be prepared for engineering. And then if they decide in the second year, when they progress to a top ranking university of their choice, that they don't want to do mechanical engineering, they want to do aerospace engineering, for example, they can change. So Boston's a bit different, whereas IIT and Illinois Institute of Technology, it is, you come to us for business or engineering or sciences, and then we would do the first year with us, and then second year will be purely with the university. And you can move over to that program as well. But again, if a student chose data science when they joined us, but then they actually want to do computer science, they can change as well.
Right. So everyone, this is a very good news for all the students that in US education system, one can take majors and minors as well and can enjoy different area specializations. It's not a designed curriculum that you have to fit yourself into it. It's your choice what you want to like study over there. If you feel comfortable studying one thing, you can continue going with that. But if you realize that this is not your cup of tea, you can move to another majors as well, depending upon discussing with your education advisor available on the university campus. So actually, we do have, I guess, a few students, they must be asking few queries, if you can connect them as well, so that we can take their questions as well, and we'll be discussing our queries as well with the passage of time.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you just repeat that again?
We, Tahir, I'm referring to Tahir, if you can please take online calls as well.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Students can ask their own queries because everyone got their results recently today. So they must be like inquiring about it, about the eligibility requirements or about campus life, about accommodation. So over to you, Tahir.
Yes, so am
Yes,
I
can you
allowed
hear
to
me,
ask my
Mr.
question?
Kashi?
Yes, I can hear you, yes.
So we do
Can
have
you hear me?
Kasim, can you please ask your question from Mr. Samir and Mr. Talal?
Yes. So one of the questions that I did have is basically for the accommodation purposes. Are you allowed to live off campus within the first year of your degree?
No, so if you're an undergraduate student, the first year of your degree, you are required to stay on campus. For graduate students, you do have the opportunity to stay off campus, but for all undergraduate students at IIT, it is definitely, you will need to be staying on campus for the first year.
But let's say we have the accommodation within 3 miles of the university. Do we still, like, isn't there like a requirement of sorts where you can go to an off-campus housing if it's this close to the university?
It depends. It depends who you're living with as well. So would you be living with your family members or would you be living alone? What would
Let's say a grandparent.
Yeah, if you're 3 miles away and you're living with your grandparents, we could refer you to our center director, who can then make a decision whether she's comfortable for you to be living off campus. But generally, if a student decides that they want to take their own accommodation and they want to live off campus and it's quite far away, of course, then we would say straight away no. In your scenario where you're saying it's only 3 miles away and you're living with your grandparents, it's definitely something that we could consider, but I wouldn't be the one who can give the final answer. It will be our center director who would make a decision whether she's willing to accept that and get that approved from the university as well, because it has to go through from us as well as university directly as well.
So what you're trying to say is at the end of the day, there is room for like a choice maybe given to you that, you know, since it's closer to us.
Slim choice, and it has to be special circumstances when a student is approved to live off campus. But it's definitely something, like in the scenario you've given us, it's definitely something that we could look into for you to see if we can get this approved.
All right, got that.
Discussing
Also, one more question that I did.
Sure.
Yeah. So another question that I did have is, you know, let's talk about the extra burden that's placed on you within the first year of your degree in a pathway program. How is that does that like, you know, propose any extra, let's say, hurdles for the student to get his GPA on the right road, or is that like, how does that affect the student?
Do you mean if a student takes the pathway instead of taking the direct entry route? No, so everything is pretty much the same in terms of fees. The only difference I would say is that you get given extra classes. So what we do is we provide, because generally a lot of the students that do come to us for the pathway would either have a lower GPA, then that's why they've been accepted onto the freshman year, or they've got a lower level of English. So what we do is we provide you extra classes in your maths and we provide you extra classes in English to give you time and every opportunity to progress onto the university second year program. That's the only difference, because you are actually taught by the university lecturers, you're taught in the same classes. There's a lot of blended learning between the university and the pathway program. The only difference would be in your timetables, you'll be given English classes and you'll be given maths classes. However, when you are given the English and maths classes, what happens is before you arrive or before you enroll, you are requested to take a maths placement test and an English placement test. And the university and us on campus will be reviewing your scores to decide which classes you are benefit best from. Whether if you've got a lower level grade at the end of that, we'll put you in a class where you may need extra time. If you've got a high grade, we might put you in a class which is higher level, but there'll be less demand from you because you did quite well in your English or you did very well in your maths. That's the only difference between the freshman year program and direct level.
Okay, that's great.
I do have a question here regarding the difference between a direct entry student and a freshman year student going through the pathway program. Can you please tell us that whether that student who's going on a pathway is also eligible to get all the facilities provided by the university as well? Is he allowed to utilize the whole premises of the university, the library, and all the facilities offered to the international students?
Yeah, absolutely. What we try and do as much as possible for the students when they arrive is that they are treated exactly like they are a university student. Our center and our offices and everything is based on the campus of the university. The students will get the campus cards so they can access the libraries. The students will be able to access the facilities. The classrooms that students will be teaching in, so be taught in, will be the university lecture rooms, the university labs, everything will be the universities. Even the lecturers will be the university lecturers. There's only, like I mentioned just before, the only difference really is we would be there to support those students when they need us for their English or for their maths to ensure that they can progress easily onto the second year of their program. That's the only difference. We try and make it as comfortable for the students as possible to be treated like a university student because essentially they are studying their first year of their undergraduate program.
Right. So I believe that this was the main queries question by the Qasim Raza. There is one student who has posted a question in the chat, Ryan Sabur. Is Ryan Sabur available with us?
Sorry, Miss Nakashia?
Yeah. Is Ryan Sabur available with us on
No,
camera?
it's not available. Actually, he's interested in UK. That's why still he's not available. And
Okay.
the next question से पहले before your next question, I have to inform to all the viewers. जैसा कि recently आप देख रहे हैं कि हमारा सेशन कंटिन्यू है, यूएसए से रिलेटेड है, बहुत सी डिस्कशंस हो रही हैं, आइट से रिलेटेड है, यूनिवर्सिटी से रिलेटेड है, फी स्ट्रक्चर से रिलेटेड है, स्कॉलरशिप से रिलेटेड है. तो यूएसए में जैसा कि रिसेंटली बहुत सी हमारे पास इंक्वायरीज प्लेस हो रही है, तो अगर आप वाकई में इंटरेस्टेड है यूएसए में स्टडी के लिए, तो अभी फॉरन कॉल कीजिए 0346474703 पर, या नीचे कमेंट सेक्शन में आपको लिंक दे दिया गया है, इस पर भी ज्वाइन कीजिए और अपनी लाइव क्यूरीज को डिस्कस कीजिए. आज हमारे साथ अवेलेबल है रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है यूएसए के इंटरनेशनल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव मिस्टर सवील अवेलेबल है, मिस्टर तलाल जलानी है, और जैसा कि मिस नकाशिया आज हमारे साथ अवेलेबल है, तो इस अपॉर्चुनिटी को मिस मत कीजिए, लाइव अपनी क्यूरी को क्लियर कीजिए. यस मिस नकाशी, यू कैन कंटिन्यू, यू हैव asked your
Right.
questions.
Samir, if we move to the next query specifically,
Sure.
we have discussed about the accommodation facilities. We have discussed the differences between the freshman year through pathway and the direct entrance. What do you say about the deadlines for the application submission for these pathway programs?
Okay, so for deadlines for the fall intake, we are actually coming closer to the end of it now. So if any students are looking to join for face-to-face teaching at IIT, for example, the deadline has passed, but we are open for the spring intake, which will be from January onwards. So that is available. However, if there are any students out there who are willing to study online, we are still open for online teaching for up until the 22nd of August. That's the deadline for anyone who does decide they want to come online. Just to give you a bit of background with the online at IIT, it does not mean that you have to do your full degree online. We are open to students to do the online from August until December and then join us for face-to-face teaching from January 2021. That is available. And if there are any students out there who are able to straight away get the application for their visa or anything like that and are desperate to come now, that is available on a case-to-case basis. Right now, although our deadline has passed, we will still be open to look at certain applications because students have up until September the 11th to arrive on campus at IIT. So that is available. For Boston, unfortunately, we are closed now for enrollment because classes will start from the 24th of August. But for IIT, it is open and we are open up until September the 11th for a latest arrival date. Otherwise, our admissions team are open now to applications for the spring intake, and we'll be moving quite quickly in terms of releasing I-20s from the end of August onwards. So from the end of August onwards, I-20s will start to be released for anyone who wants to come in January 2021.
All right. So as we are at this particular point to submit the applications for the spring 2021 intake, we always welcome and invite all the students to submit their documents. Their documents can be submitted via WhatsApp on 034647474043 or 0346474704. If you have any query, any concern regarding your grades, even, we are more than welcome to submit the applications for the initial assessment. So, Smir, can you tell us how much time does your institution normally takes to give an assessment to an application? How much is the time for the offer letter?
So from the moment we get the application to being releasing an offer letter, it can take up to 48 hours, so 2 days. If, for example, a student is applying directly to the university, please note that we do have to refer that student directly to the university as well, so that could take an extra day or so. But otherwise, most applications, if they're straightforward and applications are meeting the requirements, it will take 48 hours minimum. We are looking at 24 hours for certain cases, but otherwise, generally 48 hours is.
48 hours, really student can get the offer letter, right?
Correct.
Yes. Can you please brief us about the tuition fee structures for both institutions?
Sure. So for Illinois Institute of Technology, it is undergrad students, it is 47,000. However, we are offering a 22K scholarship, which is per year. So that's 22,000 every year of their 4-year degree. So that brings the fees down to around about 24, 25K per year. With on-campus Boston, it is 40,000, but we are offering a 50% scholarship, which is 20,000. So it brings it down to the fees of 20,000 for Boston.
So once the student make a transfer to the university transfer program at on-campus Boston, then we'll be paying the university fees, right? The scholarship is for the duration of studying at the on-campus Boston, or it's just for the 1-year award?
It's just for on-campus Boston because our program at Boston is a university transfer program. So we only offer what we are providing, which is the 40K with the 20K scholarship. But of course, other universities where the students decide to go on to will more than likely have their own scholarships available. For example, we have University of Cincinnati, who are providing up to, I believe, 7 to 10K scholarships, and their fees are around about 30K. So students would again be paying 20K, around about that. We also do provide guaranteed progression from Boston to IIT. So students could potentially go from Boston to IIT, getting the 20K from us for Boston first year, and then the 22,000 from IIT for the second year. That is available.
So is it graded progression for every student, or is there a minimum percentage a student needs to maintain?
For the guaranteed progression, there is a minimum requirement. For example, for IIT, students are required to, I believe, get the 3.0 GPA to progress onto IIT. And with the University of Cincinnati, I believe it is a 2.8 or 2.7 GPA they need to get from Boston to then progress onto University of Cincinnati afterwards.
Right. So there are still options available. If the student gets a minimum of 2.7, the student can get a granted progression to different institutions in the US, right? So your team also progressions to the institutions.
Sorry, let's repeat that again.
Your team keeps on assisting the students for getting the progressions to the different institutions. Means the student...
Yeah, 100%. So what we normally do at Boston is we give them students the opportunity to apply to 6 different universities. What we would normally do is we ask the students to apply to 2 reach universities, which would be like top 50 ranking. We'll ask them to apply to Target, which would be top 150 universities in the US. And then we'll ask them to apply to 2 safety universities. Potentially that would be Cincinnati and IIT because there's a relationship there. And if they don't get the top 2 or they don't get the top 3, then they can always have the option to go for the 4th or 5th choice that they make. It depends on the students and where they want to apply. For example, we did have a student who this year progressed to Cornell University from Boston. So that just shows that the opportunity, we don't restrict the students from applying to a university. Students can apply to any university within the US from Boston.
Right. For the class start date, what is the class start date for the spring intake 2021?
From class start date, I believe it will be January the 17th would be when orientation will start.
Okay, right. The orientation is going to start around like mid of January.
Yeah, so just orientation 17th January, and then a week after that, it would begin the classes. So 1 week for orientation and then start the classes.
Right. So
and normally we provide a late enrollment date. So we're probably looking at the latest enrollment date would be first week of February when students can latest arrive for this program.
Right.
Yeah.
Still, students need to spend a quarantine period for 14 days. Is there any facility available for the students who will be residing on campus? If they come like during the orientation session, will they be missing the orientation session, or they will be provided online services during their quarantine period?
So if for the fall intake, everything is in place. For example, with both IIT and with Boston, orientation for this fall is going to be online. However, when students do arrive, they are required to self-isolate for 2 weeks. But we are in both, we plan virtual events. We've also got an app ready for students so they can order food online. So they don't have to go outside, so they can get breakfast, lunch, and dinner all sent to their room through the app. So all of those things are in place. Also with IIT, the university, both the university and the campus itself have organized to ensure that the campus is safe as possible. So they are already introducing infrared cameras, so students will be scanned when they arrive to make sure that they are clear from COVID-19 and making sure that they are ready to study on the campus. But for both, it is a 2-week self-isolating process. But like I say, we've got orientation ready to be done online. We've got virtual events ready for students so they're not bored during their first 2 weeks. We've got the online app for their food so they can order breakfast, lunch and dinner to their rooms. And we will try and, as best as possible, to make sure that they interact with other students during those 2 weeks. So once they are able to start moving around and be outside a bit more, they can meet everyone and start enjoying the university campus life.
All right. So Samir, can you please brief us about the fee structures for the accommodation premises as well for both of options?
So yes, so for the fee structure for accommodation plus room boarding with Illinois Institute of Technology, it is $13,500 for the first year. With on-campus Boston, it is $16,000 for the first year.
Does it include the meal plans as well? A student has
that
to
includes the meal plans. That does include meal plans. And students can pay per semester. We're not asking for their fee to be paid upfront in 1 year. Students can break that down into 2 semesters. So they pay 50% for the first semester, pay 50% for the second semester. And that is available for both IIT and for on-campus Boston.
Okay, right. Students do ask this question very randomly, that once they reach their campus, how they can get the assistance in enrolling their courses and how many credit hours we need to take on for the first semester of their studies at least.
So could you repeat that? When they arrive, how do they
enroll for the classes and how many credit hours the workload they have to take on?
How many hours of classes will they have? Generally, it is going to be around about 4 classes per day. So but the hours will differentiate between the two. So you potentially may get Monday would be from 9 o'clock until 3 o'clock. Tuesday could be from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. It will depend on the modules. But what normally happens is classes are scheduled based on, for example, like I said, for Illinois Institute of Technology, students are first of all assessed with their maths and English. And once that's been assessed, then their schedule is provided to them depending on which classes they're going to be in and when those classes can be fit. So it'll be between 3 to 4 classes per day. Minimum you'd get is 3 classes. The max you'd get is 4.
Great. Is it mandatory for every international student who goes there to attend the English and math placement test?
No. So if you're going directly, you don't need to. If you're going through the freshman year or IGY program, then yes, you will need to. But for the English, it is not mandatory. It will depend on the student's level of English before. So for example, if they have met our requirement, which is, for example, a C or above in the English GCSEs, or it is a 5.5 in no band, less than 5.5 in their IELTS, then we would not require them to take the English, especially if they're going online. But if they are below requirements, then we will need them to take an English lesson.
All right. Thank you so much, Samir, for giving your time for both products to our students to let them know what are the deadlines, what are the requirements for them, and what is the fee structure.
I have a question.
Sure, please.
Sure.
Yeah. Mr. Smear, can you tell us about what's the minimum requirement for postgrad? Minimum requirement, that means what the minimum CGPA required for postgrad programs?
If they are going directly for postgraduate, then they will need to get a minimum grade of 3.0 CGPA. If they're going for the IGY, which is our international pathway, they'll need to get a 2.5.
2.5. Okay, student can transfer credit, can transfer his credit hours?
They can do, yes. But they'll be assessed first, depending on how many credit hours they've done and whether it meets the requirement for us. and also depend on the course that they're choosing and whether we have that course. So the best thing to do would be to send the documents to us to assess, and then we can confirm whether we can accept a student or not for a transfer.
Okay, and my next question is about IELTS. Can you tell us about IELTS? What the requirement for undergrad programs and postgrad programs? What's the minimum requirement for IELTS?
So for direct entry, it is a 6.5 with no band less than 6.0. For the pathway, it is a 5.5 with no band less than 5.5.
Okay, and my last question is, student can work with study?
If they are joining directly, yes, they can. If they're joining for the pathway
Okay.
for the first year, they cannot, but for the second year, they can.
Okay, right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
For the party, right?
Yep.
Tahir, do you have any further question?
Sorry?
Do you have any further questions?
No, ma'am. I don't have question. You can continue, please.
So I was just talking about summarizing the whole information what you get through CET, through Cambridge Education Group, that they do have two particular projects. One is based in Chicago and the other one is in Boston. We discussed about the accommodation facilities for the students, that they have to really spend a year at the on-campus accommodation services as well, unless and until that can be considered on a case-to-case basis, that if someone's relatives lives in a nearby location, with the permission of their central housing directors, we can get the waiver on that as well. Then we further moved to discuss about the eligibility requirements. We discussed about the facilities available at both institutions, and we are calling different applications for all the students. They can get their applications assessed by submitting their documents on WhatsApp, which is 034647474043 and 0346474704. So what we'll be doing is we'll be getting back to our students within 48 hours with their offer letters, so that they can join and study face-to-face on campus with the spring 2021 intake. So they have to launch their applications right now because embassies are overcrowded this time as well due to the lockdown in the last few years, and they do have to spend 14 days quarantine period as well once they reach at the destination. So the more early you submit your documents, the better it will be for you and for these applications as well. So thank you so much, Sunil, for giving your precious time for our students, for guiding us in brief details as well about all the facilities, fee structures, and scholarship opportunities. We'll definitely get you on board sometime other for the students' queries as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Take care. Bye now.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thanks.